Hi, and welcome to the People Pleaser Support Group, where we hold space for each other's healing journey in a way that honors each other's lived experience and encourages each other's recovery. My name is Tina Rose, and I am a recovering people pleaser. I am guided to do daily videos talking about my lived experience and my individual healing opportunities and healing in general. I have been summoned to change the trajectory of your life. In today's video, I will be doing an energy transmission, and what is coming through is for me to talk about how self love aligns you with your soul. And there's different steps that you can take to get to self love. And there's so many. All right, there we can detail so many little things that you can do. And the big picture, I would say, from my perspective, is about self care and what are all the things that are considered self care. We can start with listening to your intuition. And this was a really hard one for me and maybe for a lot of people pleasers because, 15, 20 years ago when I started having that feeling that I've talked about on other videos where I had the American dream, but there was still something missing, really big missing in my life. And it was the spiritual aspect. And I prayed, I said, help me to listen to my intuition. I had no idea how to do that. I wanted to be able to discern the difference between the ego activity and what was coming from spirit, what was coming from my higher self, the Holy Spirit of my higher self, what was coming from God, what was source wanting to bring me into focus on, what was my true awareness. And so that was one of the first things I asked. I said, help me to tune in, help me to recognize, help me to know, help me to listen to my intuition. And, when I think back, just so many steps, so much healing that I needed to do. And then I'll fast forward to 2020, just 5 years ago, when I followed my heart. I feel for the very first time that I remember, that I recall, that I recognized that I was following my heart. After all that work I had done, all the reading and putting into place the practices that I read about that would help me. You can't just read it, you have to practice it and commit to it and devote to it. But fast forward to 2020, and I felt like I needed to suddenly quit my job. I was so burnt out. My daughter was so burnt out. we were in a position where my daughter attended a private school for children with autism, and it was an hour away from my home. And we had been doing that commute for 8 years. And we were so burnt out. And I had gotten a job teaching at another school um, because I had to, because I was then separated from my husband and I needed the income. So I found a job teaching at another school in the same town as where she went to school. So we would, had an hour commute one way every day, 5 days a week. And I was just burnt out and I was having physical symptoms like I always talk about. I had been having hives for 6 weeks all over my body, and they would come in patches, like they were like circles about the size of a penny, and there would be like 5 or 6 at a time in that spot, and it would be really itchy, and it was just from my head to the bottom of my feet. I had these. I would get a new spot, and it would itch and be just inflamed for 7, 10 days, and then another patch would come up somewhere else. And I before that, I had always lived in fear, just complete fear of making any rash decisions, going on impulse or anything like that. But that day, I had, finished A Course in Miracles 365-day lessons. And that's what I had talked about in other videos, that it had clarified my mind. So I was able to see places where I needed to heal. So I was able to, my perception had changed a little bit, and I was able to see things that I wasn't able to see before. So, yeah, I was having all these physical symptoms and the knowing in my heart, but still the fear was there to do something rash. Went into work that day in 2020, and um, we had a staff meeting first thing before classes started. And it was the whole school, the whole staff of that school. And the principal, was given, talking to everyone, and he was saying about how he wasn't naming anybody, of course, but he was saying in general that it was important for you to be on time to work and some other things like that. And in that moment, when he said it, you need to be on time for work, it just went zoop straight into my heart and into my awareness. I needed to quit my job because I was one of those people. It had gotten hard after a year and a half for me to get there. And I wasn't late every day, but just being 5 minutes late, I would feel bad about it. And when he said that, I was like, I need to quit my job. I went home that night, typed out my resignation. I'm going to cry about it because I was listening to my heart. I was completely terrified. I was completely terrified. I was separated from my husband. Didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea. I was living somewhere at the time, but that was, up in the air if I didn't have money and all this kind of thing. But I followed my heart, and that was a big, big step. After that, I would say, if somebody was following their heart, I would say, welcome to the Follow Your Heart Club. And this is the club I want to invite you to, the Follow Your Heart Club, because what happened right after I gave that resignation, I gave my 2 weeks notice. 2 weeks went by. I was at home the first week, and it was in March of 2020. If you think back, that was when everything was shut down globally. People were sent home from work, and all the teachers at my school were sent home from work, and they were going to teach over the internet. Everything was going to be, over the internet and virtual because of COVID. And so it had only been a week since I had been out of work. And so I was just throwing my hands up in the air. I'm like, what the heck? I quit because of the commute and all these other things. And I was like, I was trusting. I was following my heart. I was trusting. And in that moment, I had just a brief uncertainty about what I had done. But immediately, my guides told me, and I got it. I was listening to my intuition. My guides told me, Tina, trust. You are given this opportunity to be at home all day and have the time that you need to heal and learn what you need to learn to be high frequency. And so at that point, again, I was like certain. I just sat in my certainty that I had made the right choice, following my heart. And there were a lot of unknowns, but I was trusting. That was a big one for me. Doing my Course in Miracles journey, I had to learn to trust. Trust God, trust myself, trust that I knew what I wanted. And I just had to be able to listen and hear my own voice, hear my own heart. I really wish I could give words to the true, just to amplify how much deep meaning that event had for me and how much it will have for you the first time that you go out and do something that you've never done before, but you do it because you're following your heart. That's when all the magic begins to happen. When you let go and you focus on the will of God, not of the ego activity, but focus on the will of God for your very life. That's what I felt like it was for my very life, but focus on the will of God for your very life in total surrender and trust in that divine will, no matter what your outer circumstances appear to be. While there are so many topics that I could talk about under this title, um, that self-love leads you to alignment with your soul, I'm going to leave it there because I want these videos to be of a shorter length, and I still want to do the energy transmission. But listening to your heart is self-love. It's all the things, right? Accepting yourself, trusting yourself, choosing you. So for today, I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to bring through, and I say we because it's not me. I'm just the vehicle. I'm just allowing, I'm setting the intention for that healing energy to come through for you to receive. And the energy transmission is going to be around being able to discern what your heart is saying, what your heart is wanting. Listen for the voice of your heart. That is the Holy Spirit guiding you. And listening to your heart is a big part of self love. It's all the things. So get into your comfortable position, and the energy healing begins now. Take a few rounds of deep breathing, breathing in fully, filling your lungs, pausing at the top, exhaling long and slow through your nose. And do a few more rounds of breathing just like that. I can already feel the energy ramping up. And as I call in our friends, our beloveds in high places to assist in this healing, I call in Archangel Raphael to bring through the emerald green healing light of our hearts for this healing. I call in Archangel Michael to keep the frequencies high and be our spiritual bouncer. Yeshua as our gatekeeper. Mary Magdalene to purify and consecrate our hearts. And Mother Mary to keep us in divine love and divine compassion for ourselves. To be in a place where you are able to follow your heart is to be in coherence. Mind, body, and soul coherence. Head and heart coherence. Choosing you is choosing to follow your heart's call to live your life the way you want to live it. Choose the things that you want to do. Choose the things that you want to say. All of your life is divine. An orchestration of all the many choices that you make. Even when you don't choose you in those moments. Provide you with the information, the feedback that you need to choose again. Choose differently the next time the opportunity arises to choose you. Choosing you fills your cup completely. This is the way to true alignment with your soul, the way to a deep, deep self love, acceptance and appreciation and respect for yourself. And like our channel says today, join the Follow Your Heart Club. It is the most important thing you will ever choose. The first step to loving yourself is to learn to follow your heart's call. Welcome to the Follow Your Heart Club. Blessed be, my friends. We love you. We honor you. We'll see you again tomorrow.